Thank you very much, Representative Van Hollen, for speaking with me today about the ABLE Act. I'm really excited because you're my representative.
Well, it is great to be with you, Liz, and thank you for all the work you did to help us pass the ABLE Act.
Okay. Are you familiar with Tuesdays with Liz?
I have heard about it, yes indeed. I think it's a great opportunity for people to get information about what's going on around the country in terms of, advocacy and policies for people with disabilities.
Okay. And that's why I wanted to do this show, which is a weekly show to help people with disability and people who aren't as familiar with policies as others are, to advocate for them.
That's right. I mean, and the ABLE Act, which we're going to talk about, is a good example. The ABLE Act would never have passed without, number one, information, getting to individuals and families, with disabilities, and most importantly, upon getting that information, people in the community rallying and calling on members of Congress to pass the ABLE Act. And we were able to get lots of co-sponsors, right? These are members of Congress who are willing to put their names on a bill. And the ABLE Act was one of the most successful bills ever in terms of attracting so many co-sponsors, so much support that it was hard for anybody to say, we're not going to allow you to vote on that, because we've gotten so many members on the record.
Do you know how many people co-sponsored the bill?
Oh, it was close to 400 people in the end, right? We have 435 members of Congress, and we got very high. I don't remember the exact number. Maybe you remember.
What should people know about the ABLE Act?
Well, the important thing to know is it's now a great tool, a great opportunity for people to put aside some money in a savings account to address the needs that arise for many folks with disabilities, needs that are not necessarily encountered by others. We have college savings accounts. They're called 529s.
Yeah.
And college savings accounts give students and their families an opportunity to put aside money early on to save for college. ABLE accounts are the same idea, except what they do is provide families and individuals with disabilities an opportunity to put aside some money for the special needs that those individuals and families will face down the road, whether those are in education, housing, transportation, flexible use of funds. Because as you know, those needs are constant, and it's important to save to make sure that people have resources to address those very real issues.
Great, thank you. What do you think or hope that the future of the law would be, and would the age limit ever get increased?
Well, I think what we want to first do is make more and more people aware of this new opportunity in the law. And let's see how many people decide to participate. And then if there are changes that need to be made or addressed in the law in the future, we can look at it. But I think the main thing right now is to advertise, as we are now, to people what's available.
Yeah.
Because my biggest concern is that there will be people who should be using this opportunity and using this resource who don't know about it. So we need to let people know about it.
Okay. Was there any history about the ABLE Act? Like, I understand, I read on the Down syndrome website about a parent wanting this to, he was concerned about his child or his adult to save money.
Well, there's a lot of history to the ABLE Act, and a lot of different people got involved early on to press this idea forward. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Down Syndrome Caucus, and in this case, people from all around the disabilities community came together as one alliance and worked together to get this done. And we were able to work on a bipartisan basis. So some of the other co-sponsors of the bill, I was the main Democratic co-sponsor, but we teamed up with Alan Crenshaw and Pete Sessions and Kathy McMorris Rogers. Those are 3 Republican House members who all have experience with disabilities issues, some of them in their own families. And so we were able to work together to get this done. This was a great example of people working together across party lines. I mean, everybody looks at Washington, D.C. these days and looks at Capitol Hill and they say, oh, what a mess. It's all dysfunction. This was a little ray of sunshine in the middle of all of that.
So for the benefit of our audience, who are most people with disability, could be others, it's basically working together, Democratic and Republicans.
Yes, it's finding areas where there's agreement, and this was an area where we were able to find common cause, right? The idea of allowing people to put aside a little bit of their own money in a savings account, just like families with college students are able to do. And so we were able to work together, and it took a little while. I mean, it took a number of years, but we got it done. I mean, there are lots of other areas where people spend a lot of time working on Capitol Hill that never see a successful result. This was a great successful result when the president signed the bill.
Okay, thank you. I understand that you're on the budget committee, and what does having a budget mean to people with disabilities, and how can we help?
Yes, I am on the budget committee, and the budget is very important to everyone in the country, including people with disabilities, because budgets really are a statement of our values and priorities as a country. They're filled with numbers. If you look at the president's budget, it's a couple volumes high with all sorts of numbers, but those numbers tell a story about what we care about. And in the budget, there are a number of programs in many different federal agencies to help people with disabilities, whether in the housing sector, the transportation sector, the education sector. All those areas are important. I'll give you one example in the area of education, so special education funding. I also have a piece of legislation that I've introduced, it's bipartisan, that would require the federal government to meet the commitments it made for full funding for IDEA. Because as many people know, the federal government has never matched its promise with the dollars that were promised. And so we have a bipartisan bill to do that. And in our budget, we address those kind of issues. So budgets are very important. And we have big debates over what our priorities should be in this country. Where do we want to invest public resources and tax dollars? And how do we raise those tax dollars in a way that makes sense?
So a match is basically that you give some money in the pot and I give some money in the pot.
What's that?
A match. Explain what a match is to my...
Oh, well, what I was saying was, so with IDEA, when the Congress first passed the Individuals with Disability Education Act back in the 1970s, right, Congress said it was going to provide a certain amount of money to all the states to implement the IDEA. And obviously the very good idea behind IDEA was that every student should have an opportunity for a good education, regardless of disabilities. And at that time, when the federal government told states and local school systems that they had to meet this requirement, which was a good requirement, it said that the federal government would provide a certain amount of money. And while the federal government has provided a good amount of money, it has never met the promise that it made in terms of the total. So what we're doing is pushing for a new bill that would require the federal government to meet those targets, spending targets for IDEA.
Okay, great. The last question I have is, we have talked about bipartisan, which is working together.
Yes.
What do you think would be other bills that you can work together?
Well, this one I just mentioned to you, to fully fund commitments made under the IDEA bill, is one. We do have bipartisan co-sponsorship. We've not been able to persuade our Republican colleagues to really, put this in their budgets, but we're going to move forward, try and get people to move in that direction. But there are other areas where, of course, we should be working together. The ABLE Act was a good example. Maybe there are other areas where we can use changes in tax policy to raise money for investment in our transportation infrastructure or other national infrastructure. And that's just one example, but I hope that we will be able to find other ways. There are a number of other bills that I'm on that have Republican bipartisan co-sponsorship.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks for all your good work.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.